Hello and welcome to this second episode of my podcast, Dunya Rising. Dunya means the world in Arabic, so Dunya Rising is really about us as a collective human family going through our spiritual awakening, waking up to the truths of who we are and why we're here. For any new listeners, my name is Dunya. I've been doing podcasting for a few years, but this is my first personal series focused on spirituality, well-being and creativity. I live in Glastonbury, which is a very energetically significant place. It's a place of pilgrimage where a lot of people travel to for healing and connection to their spiritual selves. I actually visited here 2.5 years ago and I just felt completely drawn to the place. It felt more like home than where I'd come from. Really, since I've been here, it's just been a birthplace for so much growth and creativity, including music, DJing and sound healing. And I've just met really interesting people here. So I want to share their stories so we can really connect deeply with ourselves, become more self-aware and learn from some really inspiring people. This episode is focused on women in music, women in bass, and it features two really close sisters called Emma and Elena, who I met by chance up the tour last summer solstice. And for anyone who doesn't know, the tour is a really sacred site in Glastonbury. It's a really big hill overlooking Somerset, a landmark associated with myths and legends, which has the remains of a 15th century tower on the top. And I met them during the potent energies of summer solstice and felt an instant connection at a time when I was actively calling in more conscious dance scenes, opportunities to DJ in sober spaces, and women in music. And as if the universe heard me, I met them both. So Emma is a sound healer, musician, singer, songwriter, DJ, events curator, and founder of Ecstatic DubThis, and is based in Wales. Elena is a Reiki healer, musician, electronic music producer, aerial dancer, and also co-founder of Ecstatic DubThis. Ecstatic DubThis is a bass-heavy, conscious dance event weaving music, connection, and sound together. This episode references the use of psychedelics. I am a huge advocate of the use of psychedelics as plant medicines used in ceremony and used as potential breakthroughs for treating mental health. I just want to make it clear that psychedelics are not safe for everyone to use. They can be unpredictable, so if you're considering using psychedelics therapeutically, please seek out the support of a trusted shaman or a mental health professional, someone with a lot of experience using these plant medicines. So, this is a 2-part episode. In the first episode, we talk about spirituality and their awakening journey. Then Emma shares about her experience as a sound healer and how she channels light language. And I'm really excited that we will end this episode listening to the track Waves, which is produced by Elena and Emma. It's such a beautiful song. Here are some of my favourite quotes from the episode.
And I think becoming aware of the paradox that we find ourselves in, the fact that we are divine beings having a human experience, that we are both the individuated experience of self, but we're also consciousness, the same consciousness that makes up everything.
As we are the one, we already know everything, we already are everything. And so we're remembering the pieces of ourselves that we've forgotten. And it kind of feels like that when we're making music together. The intention is expansion and bringing more love and awareness and consciousness to what we're doing.
It's all me. And I think that awareness totally changed the way that I interact with people and the experiences and everything that happens in our lives.
All of you is welcome here. Every part of you, your shadow, your light, every part of you, your whole spectrum, every facet of your being is welcome in this space.
My beautiful, beautiful sisters, I am so grateful to interview you both today. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. And yeah, I'm just really excited for you guys to be here.
Oh, thank you for having us.
So interested in so many facets of both of your lives as musicians, as women that rededicate yourself to your spiritual growth and your healing, that you're both healers. I thought it was really important to start with your journey in terms of, when did your healing journey start and when did spirituality become really important to you?
I guess I've always been on the path in some way. It started with, I guess, books about like Buddhism and releasing from suffering. I feel like the general thing of most people getting to the point of spirituality is like seeking and trying to find an end to the suffering of everything that's so heavy in this world. And yeah, I guess I've kind of always been on that path in a way, but for me, I had a huge spiritual awakening nearly exactly 5 years ago now at Boomtown Festival.
So interesting. That was actually one of my questions to you both, is, do you define yourself as awakened women? Because most of my time in Glastonbury and my experiences here, it has been men telling me about their spiritual awakening and not really women. And that's why I thought I was really curious to ask you both about that.
Yeah, within that, I would say that awakening is a constant happening and that we're always awakening more and more as we kind of, I see it as like a Russian doll, like we're like the smaller Russian doll becoming the bigger one. That is a continual process of like a never ending pattern that just kind of goes out and out and out and becomes bigger and bigger, like a fractal, like the larger and larger iteration of that. And so like I'm constantly having awakenings, like, oh God, is it not over? It's like, no, it's never over. So that was like the biggest one at Boomtown. I ate too many mushrooms.
So that's how we get awakened.
I feel like awakening can happen in so many different ways, but psychedelics are, I feel like psychedelics are here on this planet at this time, kind of coming into everyone's awareness a lot more, because they're like, they kind of amplify it, they like speed up the process. They're like a short, sharp shock into this, and that was that for me. I wouldn't recommend the way I did it to anyone because it was so intense. It took like, I'm still integrating some of it now 5 years later, but it was a very intense experience. I went through a very, intense integration afterwards, and I didn't really have anyone. Basically got this whole vision, and I mean the vision is, it's like I could talk about it for hours, but to kind of condense it, it was basically this vision, which since then I've realized was like a premonition, basically, of the ascension process, a kind of like a cliff notes of what to expect and the process of that. All of it came true. Wow. To the point when I had another awakening through another psychedelic experience about 2 years ago, so 3 years after the original one. Yeah, I just had this awareness. I was being spoken to telepathically by light beings called the Arcturians. I don't know if anyone's familiar with those guys. And I didn't know who they were or what they were. They weren't really talking to me. It was just this knowing I had of them. And they, basically showed me these visions. It showed me how, we need to process and ground our emotions. And it was basically showing me the kind of template of the clearing of things, the clearing of emotions, the grounding of emotions in order to complete our mission here, essentially.
Wow. So you jumped straight in there.
Yeah.
Telepathically communicating with beings. Yeah. You went straight in quite deep. I mean, it's quite difficult to really sum that up. Like, obviously you talk about how profound psychedelics can be for the awakening, almost like this gateway, but also this intuitive communication with higher beings.
Yeah.
How did you begin to even go forward after that experience? Because that's often the thing that people tell me is, how do we integrate these really profound experiences?
Yeah. We need people that have had these experiences to hold space for them. I think that's why if people are going and choosing to go down the route of psychedelics, then it's very important to have holding while that's happening. Like at Boomtown Festival, it was not appropriate for me to do that there. It was not appropriate space.
Oh my
But
God.
it also showed me so much, and it was intense. It was very intense. Going from like having no awareness to just this like poof, it was basically like the veil had been lifted. That's what it was. People speak, there's all these prophecies of like that we are in the end times, that this is the apocalypse, and like the word apocalypse literally means the lifting of the veil. That is the times that we're in. And so that's basically what I was shown. And I was also shown, it was just this blue pulse I basically saw that went over everything. And it was the oneness returning, the lifting of the veil and the oneness coming back. And I think that is a very similar experience through psychedelics of oneness. Everyone feels very connected to everything around them, one with the whole, part of it all. It was like pure blissful oneness. It was like I saw everyone as me, everyone was part of me. And coming out of that experience back to this reality was like, I didn't want to be here. I was like,
No.
what is this? I don't want to be here. It was very interesting because I think what brought it on is actually when I was at Boomtown before it happened, I was in this real state of like just seeing everyone messy and litter everywhere and people not caring about the planet or the environment. And I was just at my wit's end with everything. I was big on the Extinction Rebellion vibes at the time and like, we've only got this long left, and trying to like bring awareness to people and like freaking out. And because I've always been brought up with environmental awareness, and I was really at the end of my tether, and I was like, we're on a sinking ship, that's it. And I was actually very suicidal at that time. And I kind of think that that's why it came in. But then afterwards, when I'd had the oneness experience, it was like, it kind of amplified these feelings of like, I don't want to be here anymore anyway, because like, this isn't my home. This isn't where I'm supposed to be almost, And there's so many layers. I'm sorry if I'm just going on, but I just I don't want to like, it's quite hard to condense it.
I gave you such a big question to start with. I didn't ease you girls in. I was like, right, nature of life, let's go. Who am I? No, I mean, it's interesting. Like, one thing that stood out to me of what you said then was, first of all, your journey starting with exploring Buddhism and how can we release suffering. And it's, you talked about experiences of being suicidal. You talked about, going from this profound experience of oneness to actually coming back into this matrix world, feeling really dark, struggling with depression maybe. So what is it about the darkness? What is it about the suffering that can actually be that gateway into spirituality? Do you feel like it was your suffering that then awakened you? It was the catalyst into, this spiritual life is really important, I'm going to dedicate myself to it?
We all have this like programming within us to better ourselves, to do better. We are constantly expanding, like we are growing. It was this message, it was this like, it kind of gave me purpose, this message of like, you're here to complete this mission.
How much your life has meaning.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you have a purpose here. But I feel like the darkness, the shadow, from an awareness of like all is one, and the darkness is just an aspect of that, and therefore an aspect of us. The separation, or the perceived separation of the light and the dark, is that the dark serves the purpose of the contrast. So it brings us back from darkness to light. Without the darkness, we wouldn't appreciate the light. So it's like a very necessary piece of the whole for us to come back to, I guess, neutrality.
I thought it was really profound, like some of the themes of what you were talking about, because although people's journey into spirituality can be so different and all of our experiences can be so different, there are those kind of there's certain themes that come through, and often it's like people seem to reach a crisis point, and then something, and it's like, I don't know what it is, that nature of being human, that we seem to really need to reach a rock bottom before something really deep shifts within us, or before we really then have to, there's nothing left to do but go to spirit at that point.
Well, we're so conditioned, aren't we? I think that's the part of it. Like, we're very deeply conditioned into this reality, into what we see around us, and that is just, again, a part of being human in this day, in this age. It's like we need that catalyst almost. And I feel like the more we awaken now, for me, I need less now. Like, I need less of a catalyst to create the change. So for me, I feel like we're here to bridge polarity and come to a neutral point. And I see neutral as unconditional love, I guess.
So beautiful that you'd end with unconditional love, and also talking about bridging the polarities, just bringing me back to how I met you both up the tour. Where I was on a mad rant about the polarities up the tour and the extremes of what you see. So thank you for bringing me back to that memory. And Elena, I wonder, do you resonate with what Emma said in terms of your healing journey, why spirituality became important to you? How did the veil get lifted for you? Was there a similar theme of suffering or experiences of intense oneness? What was your journey like?
I mean, I resonate with a lot of what Emma said, yeah. I guess my journey into spirituality and into healing was somewhat different. I'd kind of grown up with quite an open-minded mum. She was into things like feng shui and crystals, and there was never any information that came with it. There was just certain things that were done around the house and certain things left in certain places, and a bit kind of, she called it woo-woo. She kind of, you say it's all like witchy stuff. She used to think of herself as a little witch, which I quite liked. But then I guess I started my journey into spirituality more so than healing by actually not really liking religion. I learned over the years to understand a bit more about it, that when I was younger, I used to read books like The God Delusion, that kind of stuff, which is kind of just disprove God and look more at the scientific side of it. And I went to university and studied, science. So I had a very scientific background, and a lot of the spiritual stuff, I was really struggling to fully sort of take that leap into it, because there wasn't a science thing there to be able to prove that it was real, and I was struggling to allow myself to believe something that couldn't be proven. And then my mum passed away, so 20 years old, and that really, it just pushed me onto a path to understand where she'd gone. I felt deep down that there was more to life than this life. But again, science couldn't prove that. So then it had moved from this place of needing to know through science and moving into a place of feeling and wanting to understand that further. So I started reading more books around the afterlife, out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences. And that kind of got me onto the path, I guess, more of understanding the layers of existence, the multidimensional aspect of us. And from that, I went in to study Reiki and became a Reiki master. And that turned my whole life. From that, I was on the healing path fully. I'd had the veil lifted in lots of ways just through the explanations and the experiences I'd had through giving treatments and receiving treatments as well. And understood a bit more about light and frequency and color. And I guess from that, it's the awakening happens in stages. It's like you get little droplets of information, and then like a deeper understanding of that information. It just keeps expanding and expanding, and suddenly you connect different dots, and before you know it, you have this much vaster understanding of something that you understood years ago, but like you understand it on more detail. But I don't know the word. Do you know the word awakened has actually made it now to the Urban Dictionary? And it's defined as spiritually aware of the universe and its direct metaphysical connection to one's own being and the connection it has to all life forces. the fact that that's in there makes me feel like it's definitely a quickening that you were talking about, Emma. This people are definitely becoming more aware of themselves and their multidimensionality.
Yes.
And I think becoming aware of the paradox that we find ourselves in, the fact that we are divine beings having a human experience, that we are both the individuated experience of self, but we're also consciousness, the same consciousness that makes up everything. And I think the fact that everyone you meet, as you said, Emma, is just an aspect of consciousness experiencing itself. That comes up in our lyrics as well, I think. But yeah, it's all me. And I think that awareness totally changed the way that I interact with people and the experiences and everything that happens in our lives. You have that expanded awareness, then you can't hate the person for being rude to you because it's you being rude to you. And so you find a way to have compassion for them or to have an understanding of a different perspective, maybe the journey they've been on. Equally, that awareness that if you're experiencing something outside of you, that's the paradox. What's outside is inside. We have the polarity. So if you're experiencing sadness outside of you, then maybe there's some sadness inside of you that needs to be looked at. So all these things just become keys through which you can learn more about you. And it's all you. So you're just constantly on a journey, I feel. Never-ending journey of healing.
My heart is so warmed whenever I speak to you both, honestly. So warmed. I think that's really interesting. So you grew up with a mum that was kind of into the witchy stuff. I love that she referred to it in that way. But also I kind of resonate with you saying that you went kind of anti-religion, because I grew up with quite a strict Muslim dad. And then also half my family was Jewish, and then my mum was Christian, and it was just like a lot of religion in my family. And I got to a point of just being like, it's all wrong and it's all oppressive. And I similarly went for that journey of just rejecting it all to then actually spirituality becoming such a profound and most important part of my life. I think,
yeah, I mean, with religion specifically, I started to understand that it's lots of different names given to kind of the same thing, and that everyone's belief system is correct. Everyone is totally entitled to believe whatever they want to believe, especially if it brings them solace and serenity and peace, and it makes them feel safe or it makes them feel empowered. I'm all up for that. But it's when we have the separation and when people are pitching against each other because of their different beliefs, and they're not able to hold space for each other's beliefs and each other's differences, and are just allowing each other to be. I think that's what I was rebelling against, was seeing this organized religion and seeing how if you're really stuck in one viewpoint and you're not able to see other people's viewpoints, how that can create friction and war and suffering in the long term. I think
it's just that us versus them mentality that I think all of us are becoming really tired by these more and more categories to just define us and bring us away from each other. So I thought it was really beautiful that you said that it's actually all me, and coming back to that oneness, and even you saying what's outside is inside. And really how much I joke with my friend about having this spiritual muscle when people are really getting to you and having to come back to it's just me, I'm one with them, could be so hard when people are really irking you. But again, it's that wisdom that comes from what you were saying about what's outside is inside, and really tuning into our own internal reality and how we might be calling certain things in or drawing certain things to ourselves as well.
Definitely. In that situation specifically, if you aren't dealing with something yourself, you are going to be presented with it in your external. And so if you're getting lots of things popping up in your external, look inwards and go, okay, well, this person's disrespecting me. Therefore, how am I disrespecting myself? Because they wouldn't be disrespecting me if I wasn't disrespecting myself. They are just a mirror of me. And this person's really angry all the time. Well, what am I actually angry about? Why is their anger bothering me so much? If I wasn't actually secretly angry about something, then their anger wouldn't be bothering me. So yeah, it just gives you opportunities to really, your triggers are treasures. Emma gave me that one once. Lovely little line. But yeah, your triggers are your treasures. If you get triggered, look at why you're triggered and what is it about that situation and where it's happened in your past. Invariably, we get these cycles, these patterns. And it's often something that happened in childhood or something that happened in younger years that we didn't have the strength or the know-how to deal with at the time. We didn't have the voice to speak up and say, actually, every time you do that, Mom, it makes me feel sad. Or every time, you don't listen to me, it makes me feel like I'm not important. And then when you're not listened to as an adult, it sends you right back to that 5-year-old you who wasn't being listened to, but you haven't made that connection. So you're going to keep getting the cycles until you are able to go back and hear that. And forgive the person for not hearing you.
As you're speaking, I'm literally just recalling all the times I've been like really triggered by someone. I'm really like hating on them, and then having all these realizations about what that was bringing up for me. And it's such an important one. Like, it's such wisdom that, you think for your younger self, like one sort of real strength of wisdom that you could give yourself would have been about actually going inward first and really checking in with yourself about what I'm feeling before pointing the finger out. So, Ems, my question for you is, you're an amazing sound healer. I've experienced your sound healing and just felt in divine bliss. Why were you drawn to this medium of healing?
I just knew it was something I was going to do. I've always leaned towards music. My parents used to sing to me when I was in my mum's stomach, and they used to play certain music and say certain things, and to calm me down, my dad would he had a music room in the basement of our house when we lived in London, and he would take me down there and dance with me to help me sleep. I used to play piano when I was young, and I played the saxophone, and so I've always kind of played with music. I used to get the pots and pans out of the cupboards and wake them up and early Saturday morning by banging on them and making music. So I've always kind of been quite musically inclined, I guess.
How did you experience sound healing? So when you had your first sound bath where you were receiving, how did you experience that?
It was really profound for me. It was really activating. When I listen to specific things, or now it's mostly light language and things like that. Yeah, I was getting body convulsions and shaking and rocking and lots of stuff releasing, big tension releases, and crying, lots of crying, big emotional releases. There was a piece of it that didn't feel as held as it could have been. And I think that's really important within my sharing of sound healing, to have the space, the integration space, to have the space of holding, of welcoming, of really being with the people that are there. It can be bypassed a little bit sometimes, or the strength of it can be underestimated. And so I feel like there was that kind of desire to have that more. And it kind of naturally unraveled and was like, oh, I can do that. I can be that and share in that way and hold space in that way. So, yeah.
That's really beautiful. Especially because it's I relate with what you're saying, is when I've experienced sound healing, I've had some really profound experiences of channeling. Something came through me and never even knew what channeling was, and I was just speaking in tongue. I've had convulsions where my whole body is just really shaking. I mean, always I joke, it looks like The Exorcist, because I'm just fully shaking, and it's such an intense experience to go through.
Especially, I just got full body chills when you said that.
Yeah. You need to feel safe enough though, and I've had experiences of sound healing where I've started shaking, and then someone's come up as if there's something wrong, and then I get insecure, and then I can't shake, and then the healing stops. So I thought something really beautiful about you talking about, as a healer, you really being present and helping people to integrate, really welcoming people in, having a heart share and things like that. Seems like such an important aspect for you as a healer.
Yeah, fully. It's interesting that you said that as well, about going up and almost stopping the process. I don't resonate with being a healer. That's not what I say. I don't say that I'm a healer. I say I do sound healing. It just comes through. I don't I'm not actually doing the healing. I'm holding the space in order to facilitate the healing that's naturally happening for others, which means getting out of our own way. Like, it's not about my experience or my healing. And in that way of like people coming up and kind of stopping that process, it's not, they're not holding space. They're not holding space for the process to happen. So for me, I witness people in those spaces, and I'm aware. I'm like, okay, well, that person over there is having a really intense time right now. I'm just gonna focus my energy on them, bring extra light into their process to hold space energetically as well as emotionally from over here. I'm aware that they're having a really deep process right now, but until such a time as they reach out, until such a time as they put their hand up, or they obviously need assistance, they obviously need physical holding, I'm there to hold energetic space. And in that way, for me, that means to give the space, to allow for the process to come through, whatever that process is. And that's not my ego getting in the way and being like, I need to help this person because I'm a healer and I'm doing all of this healing. It's like, no. Like, they're healing themselves. That's fine. Like, the healing is naturally moving through them, and they need the space to be witnessed in that. And like, actually, as space holders, I think it's a big responsibility for us to allow that to be, because actually the things that are coming through are what's supposed to come through.
Beautifully said. So beautifully said. It really reminds me of like when I was working in an addiction service, and I was much younger at the time. And we'd have like a group in the mornings where it'd be like a share, and learning from people that had even had like gone through addiction programs in prison, that it was really important when someone was crying to not run up and hug them, and to not like run and do that, because it stops their process. And that being quite difficult for me to understand at the time, being quite an affectionate person, but also recognizing in myself, where is this person that's trying to rescue? And is that coming from a healing place for them? Or is that my own stuff coming up with this need, this compulsive need to rescue? I do think it's quite like funny what you said about, the ego that comes with calling ourselves healers sometimes, although I would both describe you both as healers personally, especially in the spiritual world. There is just a lot of ego with everyone wanting to call themselves a shaman nowadays. So I do really feel you in that sense of how do we remove ego. And I also think it's really beautiful how actually it's really being present. Some of my own moments with friends have actually, where I've had a big emotional release, has been people that have just witnessed me. They've not even really needed to say much, and yet just their presence and just their listening has allowed that process to come through. I really was just very interested with you to talk about light language, because it seems to be something coming up a lot in the spiritual world and our culture. And I think for some people, they think, what is that light language? It's a bunch of woo-woo, like, don't really believe in it. What is your understanding of light language? Because I've heard you channel it and it can feel so divine. It can feel really otherworldly. What would you say to someone that maybe doesn't really believe in it or is a bit skeptical?
Light language has been an unfolding and unraveling for me. The way I describe light language to someone that doesn't know about it is kind of like, it's like speaking in tongues. I have a beautiful sister who speaks about it. She doesn't call it light language, she calls it heart language. And I really resonate with that. So I feel from an egoic perspective, when we awaken, we want to cling to something. We want to cling to something that we know. So for a while, because when I had this big awakening, and these Arcturian beings were the beings that kind of came to me, there was a part of me that was like, I'm channeling Arcturian energy. And I kind of saw it as like, it's actually, that is, again, it's my ego clinging to something external. When we don't know, we will cling to something external because it feels safer than not knowing. And so a lot of people will say, I'm channeling this deity and I'm channeling this race of beings and all of that. sometimes it can sound really, really weird. You know, sometimes it's like, I'll be like making crazy like squeaky noises and sound like a mouse and like being like, oh, I don't want to be doing this in front of people. And it's like that thing of like the embarrassment, the shame, the judgment, all of this, like moving through all of these things of like, this person's doing something weird and how am I going to be perceived by others, etc., etc. And sometimes that does come in and it's like, okay, well, that's a distortion. That's within your ego. That's the separation. And like, actually, I can feel it, and I can feel it in the energetic stream while I'm bringing it through, and I correct it really rapidly. And I'm like, okay, bring it back to love, bring it back to love. And I think that's the kind of way I live. I live from my heart, and I come back to love again and again and again, unconditionally. My light language transmission is that, basically. So it's bringing light through, and it's connecting directly to source energy with the intention of the highest good for all beings. And whatever needs to come through will come through, whatever needs to be released will be released. And that is basically my intention. We don't need to be getting our information through a secondary source, because we are all tapped into the original prime creator source. And so when we can hold that awareness and bring that prime creator energy through with intention to facilitate healing, to assist, to help, to bring love, then that is, for me, like, that is how I bring the energy through, is the intention. I think when it first started coming through, I was speaking in English.
I
And
was
it
going to
was,
ask you this.
yeah, it was direct transmissions of, it kind of started actually as automatic writing, because everyone has the ability to channel light language. Everyone has that ability. We all, as I say, we are all tuned into source. We are all tapped into that. I see light language as codes that need to come in. So everything is a code. A movement, a sigh, a breath, everything is a code that is coming in for purpose within the reality that we're in now. So every sound that comes in has a code. And that one tiny code that we bring through the courage and the bravery to step out of the shame and embarrassment that we feel by bringing this weird coding through, might actually be the main code for someone else to unlock and activate their entire blueprint. So we need to be sharing this now. It's very vital that we are sharing these codes, and it feels of the utmost importance, in my opinion, to be doing that now, which is why I want to be bringing more. You know, I've started doing events where light language is integral to the share. We all have this, and automatic writing is a really beautiful way of bringing in this kind of awareness of the channel that we are. It's kind of like we are the radio station, and we're tuning into different channels to play different channels, you know, so to play different music. The channel comes through us, so we're the radio, and we're kind of tuning into different frequencies, essentially. Automatic writing, you literally just write down a question or whatever, and you just let your pen go, and just writing down whatever comes through. Even if you're writing, I don't know. And like at some point, something will shift and something will come through that isn't actually you. And you kind of have that awareness, and it's almost like this kind of stepped back separate thing that's coming through you, and it kind of is you because it is you, but it's also kind of not. And I had it once, and I was sat there, and it was like they were showing me this experience, and I was like rocking back and forth, but my body was still, and it was like, can you see the separation? Because obviously there is no separation really, but can you see these two aspects of yourself? And it's kind of bringing this awareness of multidimensional existence. Now it's more abstract, because I can kind of understand more abstract concepts now. I got a light language transmission actually when I was driving the other day back from London, of the importance of the light being brought in now, and it came through in light language, and I just got the whole transmission as just an awareness.
I
too
was
much.
literally just like grinning like a weirdo the entire time you were talking, like scrambling like a nutty woman, just like getting all the codes from her, just write it all down. I just thought you've just articulated it so well, especially for any listeners that maybe they've never heard of light language and maybe they think, oh God, it's like a new age thing. Because I've experienced it in two ways, but I didn't know what I was saying. And it happened once in a ceremony, and it was during a sound bath, and I just started speaking in tongue, and it was all I knew is that I was speaking to the person who was channeling, and it was a message for them. I don't know what was coming through me. I don't know what was being said, but it
Did they
changed
hear
my
you?
yeah. And she said to me, I said, it was just like this. All I remember vaguely, it was like, and it was just coming out in like rhythms.
Yeah.
And she was very much like channeling the grandmother, the ancient grandmothers, and calling in the grandmothers. So whether that was my ancestor coming through, I don't know what she was saying, but it changed my life really, because it changed my whole
Wow.
perception of reality. And another moment I had, which I thought was really interesting, because you said something around we could be channeling something for someone else and that we're all capable of doing it. And I remember I was in a ceremony and it was all women, and a sister was I don't want to go into, it's really personal, but she was going through a really dark moment that I don't even have time to go into. And I just sat up and I went, and I don't even, it wasn't even like a conscious thing in my head. I just went, and it was the only thing that just came through for her. So that really hit me deeply when you said that sometimes it's like it's coming through for others and it's that collective healing. I really want to try the automatic writing now that you've said this. I think that's really interesting. It's a good way to unblock some of the mental clutter that we can sometimes have that really blocks us from trusting our intuition or going a bit deeper. And I also thought it was really beautiful. I wanted to read you something because I love these like animal medicine cards. And there's the book written by Jamie Sams and David Carson. And it goes through the animal totems and what it means, often in Native American culture. And one thing I pulled last night was the whale card. And it just really reminded me of what you were saying, because it says, if you pull the whale card, you're being asked to tap into these records and allow yourself to be sung to by those who have the original language. We are the only creatures who do not have our own unique cry or call. Find yours. Allow your voice to use this sound to release tension or emotion. Whale signals a time of finding your origins, of seeing your overall destiny is coded in your DNA, and of finding the sounds that will release those records. You're a melody of the universe, and the harmony is the song of the other creatures. And it's like basically going and using your voice to open memory and to express your uniqueness. And I just, when you were just talking, then I thought, wow, it just really fits in with like the animal medicine of finding your sound. And it doesn't need to sound even good. It could just be rhythms of stuff coming out. Right. So, I mean, linking light codes, healing, spirituality into this is actually quite easy, because I think as musicians and healers, it requires that sensitivity and intuition, which would make you gifted musicians, which you are. We all know that electronic music, DJing, producing can be seen, and is actually, it's not really seen, a male dominated space. So how was Ecstatic Dub formed, and how important is it as women to be leading in this space?
I feel like the purpose of ecstatic dance is the process, for the process to come up. It's a space of healing. It's really connecting into the power of movement medicine, to the power of dance, the music. And I would find myself really like in this one tune and like going into this deep process. And then all of a sudden the genre would change and it would just ping me straight out of my process. And I would just be like, oh, I was just about to release. Like for me, it's the bass. And I remember the first ever time I heard dubstep, it was like, I was like 21, living in Falmouth, like taking all of the drugs all the time. But the first time I heard it, I was out at this night, and it was like, I remember turning around to my friend and saying, like, this is the vibration that my cells are dancing at. And it was like, this is it. This is the frequency that resets my cells, that makes them happy again, kind of thing. And so for me, the bass has always been my medicine. And then going to the Ecstatic Dance Bristol, loving the vibes, and then going to teaching. So I was going to these 2 different nights and being at teachings and just seeing and feeling the love in the space and being like, oh my God, there's so much love here, but everyone's drinking, everyone's smoking, very separate, very disconnected, but connected at the same time, because dub is a very loving vibration. There's like all of the people that are there, like the rastas, like on about like love and love and one love and all of this. It's a very loving energy. And I remember being there one night and just feeling like, wow, if we could harness this in the same way that we bring Ecstatic Dance Bristol and combine the 2. And I remember sitting there and saying to Stevie, like, I want to make a teachings but an ecstatic dance version. And he was like, oh, that'd be amazing. I was like, yeah, I'd call it Ecstatic Dub. It was dropped in and it's just gone straight away. So I was like, right, Ecstatic Dub, I want to start it. I remember just messaging Elena and being like, I want to start Ecstatic Dub. Do you want to come and play? Because in my opinion, Elena is one of the best DJs I have just heard, full stop. So like female, male, whatever, she's just top, right? So I was like, yeah, I want her to be there. And then my friend May as well, May Bird, she's an amazing singer. So I was like, right, so she can sing at the end and then we'll finish off with sound healing. And then another friend, Charlie, he does like psy-dub. But yeah, so originally it was women and men, because Charlie was there and Elena was there and I was there and May was there. And it was this merging of the 2. And that was last March. That was the first one. And as soon as we did some promo, it just went, woof, everyone was like, Ecstatic Dub, that's amazing. Like, what a great idea. Yes, yes, yes. And All About Love Festival reached out and invited us. And Tiger Sai from All About Love was like, we want you. I've put you on the lineup. Is that okay? And I was like, obviously,
Yes.
that's okay. So we went to All About Love. We played with our beautiful sister Lulila, and then Kyle came and helped with the sound healing, our friend Kyle. It felt like the seed. It was like last year, it was really like, we only had a few events and it was like, right, we're going to plant the seed. And then my intention for this year was like, right, we need to run with this. We need to start getting it more, we need to start doing more regular events. I need to start thinking about doing events in Bristol. Yeah, and then this year we've done three monthly events in Bristol. We've run a retreat in collaboration with Journey to the One. We're doing Boomtown Festival. We've got 5 sets now at Boomtown. We're doing Love Jam, Journey to the One again, and then we've got a September and October event dates in Bristol again. So yeah, it's just going from strength to strength, really. It's me and Elena kind of are the main people, and then we've got other people coming in and joining us here and there, and it's just like a force basically. So yeah, it's just amazing and I'm so grateful for it basically.
Powerhouse of women, you 2.
Really wanted to shout out like just Elena again, because she does all the photography, she does all the promo videos, she does all this amazing stuff that's like all with the graphics and like and everything, and it's just, I'm just so grateful because it's like she's just supported me throughout it so beautifully. And we are Ecstatic Dub now, and it's growing. It's kind of becoming this, it's like a mycelium, it's becoming this network, and it's becoming such a beautiful space for so many people to be witnessed, to be seen. And that, that's the intention. It's this platform, and it has been just for women this whole time as well. Since that first day with Charlie, I've had it as female-led, female-centered, because it is important to showcase female DJs and female singers and sound healers. The feminine rises first, and so that's what I felt that I wanted to honor. And it's been a really beautiful mirror of that in this connection with me and Elena, and just bridging our energies and bringing other sisters into that as well. So yeah, love you, Elena. Thank you so much for everything you do and all you are.
very inspired. I think, especially being female led and like created, and you can really feel that having experienced this ecstatic dub. I love when you talked about dubstep, that you said that this is the vibration that my cells are dancing at. It's just a quote that I'm always going to think of now. And also the bass has always been my medicine. I need that printed on a t-shirt. I need that tattooed on me somewhere, because I so resonate. What a beautiful way to showcase your sisterhood and honor that relationship that you're co-creating together. I think it is the healing is through the creativity. And I think that's what's been really astounding about meeting you both, and just being like, God, like they are on it. I wondered, like, if you could, before you go, speak a little bit about the track Waves.
It's so beautiful how they just unfold, these songs that we create together. I feel like as we are the one, we already know everything, we already are everything. And so we're remembering the pieces of ourselves that we've forgotten. And it kind of feels like that when we're making music together. It feels like, oh, this is the song. We're just remembering how it goes together. And it is like, yeah, that was it with Waves, really. And it was, yeah, the words of, we are all just waves. We are all just waves in this universal maze. We transcend beyond the realms of this reality. I think it came actually from a vision that I'd had. And it was just the pattern and the awareness that we are all pattern, and we are fractal patterns, waves of energy. And yeah, and light, exactly. Frequency, light, sound, all of it is waves.
Thank you for listening. I really hope you enjoyed hearing the stories of these magic women and their paths into spirituality and music. Check out the links in the description for more information about Emma, Elena and Ecstatic Dub. In the next episode, we hear more from Elena about being a Reiki master, understanding energy healing, making music and the power of healing frequencies. And now we're going to end this episode with some beautiful music. This is Elena and Emma's track called Waves from their new album.
We are